back, Planeswalkers, to another episode of the Hive Mind. My name is Jon Dunning. This is the show where I traverse the multiverse in search of other prominent members of the Magic the Gathering community. I want you to head on over to cardsphere.com. That's right, cardsphere.com is simply the best place to buy, sell, and trade your paper Magic the Gathering cards online. While you're traversing, head on over to inkedgaming.com. You could enter a promo code HiveMindMTG to receive 10% off your purchase. So without further ado, planeswalking in from the icy cold tundra of Los Angeles, California, I have Nick Prince. Thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Hello, it's just frozen here. Let me tell you, 80 degrees has never felt colder.
It's 80 there already? Cheese and rice.
Yeah, it's like high of 80 during the day, and then it goes down to like 65 at night. It's great. I love it. It's my perfect weather, especially after coming from Minnesota. Like, this is why I moved here.
Yeah, I mean, my old stomping ground, I'm from San Diego originally, and then went to Vegas and just roasted. So, I mean, getting a little bit of cooler climate, cooler weather up here in the Pacific Northwest is just so agreeable to me.
Oh, I don't understand why you left San Diego. Frankly, anywhere, including Los Angeles, just stay there.
Yeah. LA, I do miss the beaches and whatnot. So I traded the beaches in for trees. It's so funny because I was, a desert kid for so long. And then I moved here. I've been here for like maybe 2 years, and I already got a little tree tattoo. I just love trees so much.
Kind of like the tundra version of Selesnya. I love it.
There you go. Absolutely. So this is not a dry show, sir. So who is your special guest that's going to be helping you out through this evening?
This is a glass of Pinot Grigio, I think. I don't know wines very well at all, although I drink them quite often. I just poured a glass of whatever was in my fridge.
Perfect. That's all you need to know. And I'm going Scotch tonight. I have some Dimple Pinch. So I pulled kind of a heavy dram. So, I've since I met Tarmocat and Anthony, they've enlightened my world about the dram of Scotch. This, I think, is more of a cat dram than an Anthony dram. I think he prefers the wee drams. So cheers, my friend. Thank you for planeswalking in. Hope that your trip was non-turbulent.
Yeah, it was pretty smooth. It could have been gayer, but it was pretty good.
Nice. Well, yeah, with all the stuff going on with Ravnica, that's kind of sucking in all the party. So, it's just for us people on the outside. This is what we have
something
left
going on. I feel like I wasn't invited to the coolest party. Like, all my friends are there. Like, what's going on? Why are we here?
Yeah, that's right. So, as I like to start off each episode, Nick, how is Magic the Gathering? What is the biggest way that this game has affected your life in the most positive of ways?
Oh, that's a big question. I think that it's very much affected how I think, just in general. Like, you always hear people when they talk about Magic, kind of talk about various forms of like game theory and like playing to your outs and just like those sorts of things that they apply in their daily lives in terms of just how they make decisions and what they care about and what they spend emotional energy on, stuff like that. I think is one of the big things it's given me. Second is just an amazing group of friends. I met a lot of my friends, many of them not directly, but via other Magic players. When I moved to Los Angeles, I have friends from college and high school that I still talk to because I play Magic. Now I have friends from kind of the GP circuit and a little bit the Star City circuit if they'd ever come even remotely close to the West Coast. All these people across the country that, if I'm staying in Dallas or wherever, I always have a place to stay now. So it's great. Awesome. Just the social aspect, the way that you think about the game. Those are the two big ways, I guess.
Yeah, and that is just a common theme where it's mostly the gathering portion of it. It's kind of a play on words, but it's actually the reality of the game where it's the people that make this, that transcends it and elevates it more than just a cardboard game or a computer game at this point. So yeah, without further ado, when did it all start, Nick? What is your Magic origin story?
So the way that I got started in Magic was they needed like I was always a nerd. Like, that's never been not true, but I wasn't as much of one. I never played Dungeons and Dragons. I mostly, I played like some video games and stuff like Halo, and because who didn't back in 2006 or whatever. And at some point, my friends were like, "Hey, we need another person for this draft." And I'm like, "What's that?" And so I drafted Triple Planar Chaos. I know I drafted a bunch of Rebels.
Wow.
There was like one that could tap and deal 1 damage, and was like, wow, this is unblockable. That seems good. And it could find other rebels because that's always been their shtick. And I had like I saw it again like several years later in one of the modern masters. Like there was a black rebel that can tap creatures or something. That's all I know about that draft. I probably got destroyed. Who cares? And then so I would otherwise, I think it was towards the end of the summer that happened. And then I bought the Orzhov Precon just to have it. And we were talking about it in physics, like the first week of class. And our teacher walked by and saw us, and they're like, "What's that?" And we were like, "Oh, it's this card game called Magic and Revenue." And she like kind of looked at it for a bit, and she's like, "That seems educational. You can play." We're like, "In class?" And she's like, "Yes, you can play in class. I don't care." We're like,
that's a cool teacher. Yeah.
And because I wanted any excuse to not pay attention to physics class, so that is the entire reason that I actually play. Is we played back and forth, and we kind of got like a little bit of a metagame going between like the 4 of us who sat at a table. And eventually I found out about F&M and stuff from there. And but legitimately, if she'd been like, put that away, I probably would not be playing competitive Magic whatsoever.
Nice. Were you just like hiding all the Rakdos cards? You're like, yeah, it's totally educational. Don't worry about like all this gruesomeness going on.
So you say Rakdos, but like one of the most disturbing arts, like I think in the game, is the original Mortify art.
Sure. Yeah.
Like, that card is creepy. And I don't know if she just didn't see it. Like, I probably just had Taysop or something, and it was like, oh yeah, she's cool. She has like the weird costume. We're like, whatever, they're kids, and like, because clearly it was none of the other cards that led her to believe this was educational.
Sure. What part of Magic initially drew you in? Was it kind of the art, or was it the play style? You said you were a gamer before, but what really stuck out to you? Where you're just like, this is kind of what I want to spend my time on.
Well, I mean, like, I kind of liked fantasy things. Like, so when I was in the awkward phase of teenagership, I tried to read Lord of the Rings, but I think it's unreadable. And I read Dragonlance, shout out to Shivam. And sure. I like watched all the Lord of the Rings movies, and like, so I was familiar with fantasy as a genre, right? So I expect that if it had been like kind of like World War II themed or something, I probably wouldn't have been interested.
Sure.
I might have been able to do sci-fi too, just because I find that interesting. Like, I love Star Wars, but I think that it was a big part of it's just like kind of the flavor of it. And it was just a very deep and complex game. And like, I had spent a lot of time studying and analyzing like RTS games. Like there was one called Battle for Middle Earth and whatever that I spent way too much time on when I broke my leg. So like, I was looking for something like this, and then just happened to across it at the right time, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I know the answer to the first part of this, but what is your favorite format? What's your favorite card of all time? And what are some just kind of cool stories from, I assume that you started kind of at the tabletop in your classroom, but how did that evolve into like going to F&Ms and then, I mean, kind of evolving into the tear that you're on currently?
So my favorite card of all time is Revelark.
Nice, yeah.
It's like I love Trostani, I love Judith. They're my favorite. They're my favorite now. But let me tell you about a card that I played to death. It was the original Revelark.
Even though it looks like a goose exploding, like what is going on with that?
Yeah, it was great. So when I was playing, and like they just released Planeswalkers, so I think I bought a Liliana for the deck and whatever. But when I really started going was in around morning time. Was when I went to FNMs and stuff. And my first deck that I took was a mono blue Merfolk deck because I thought that counterspells sounded really cool and powerful. So I wanted to play a mono blue deck for some reason and play Runesnag. That's really all I remember about that deck. I think I had Wanderwine Prophets in there. That one didn't last very long. I played Doran the Siege Tower for a while after that. Cool card. But I quickly learned I really didn't like green mid-range decks very much. At least back then, which is kind of funny looking at it now that I say it. And eventually I kind of got onto like 5-color control and Revelark and those sorts of strategies. And I love Revelark to death. I have a commander deck that is just perpetually updated in various ways over the years. That's really just Secret Commander Revelark, because the entire deck is built around ways to abuse it. So body double combos and various things with like metamorphs and clones. And I was
going to say, is it Safi Eric's daughter commander deck, or
no, not Safi. So it's right now it's Rune. I cast him. It's mostly just me trying to get as much land into play, and then I will draw as many cards until I can find the right pieces, and then just start doing silly things with either Crystal Shard and Revelark, or Blink, or Resto Angel, or Panharmonicon, and just whatever ETB effects happen.
Sure.
And so I will never take that deck apart, no matter what, because it's my favorite card of all time.
It's just such a good card, and it goes in those like Blink strategies, like King Brago. He was Revelark was in there, and then also the sack strategies too, like all your Orzhov, or even Carador. I used to love me some Carador back in the day, and Revelark was prominently featured in that one. What were some of the cool stories where you were just like, how was that like first F&M, or did you like to draft back then too, or?
So my first draft, I didn't really. My first draft at a store. My first draft was this weird triple planar chaos thing.
Right.
Who knows what that even was? Like, independent of the fact that I didn't know what I was playing. Like,
sure.
Why triple planar chaos, guys? But my first draft at a store was triple. It was triple Lorwyn, I know, actually. So I must have started going a little bit before Morning Tide.
Nice.
I drafted with a friend. And then 6 other random people I didn't know. I drafted a Giants deck, and I know I won at least 2 of the matches because I got paired against my friend James, who I crushed, and I played against my friend, a friend of mine who would become a friend of mine. At the time, we didn't know who we were, right? He opened a Thoughtseize, a Liliana, and a Cryptic Command for his Blue Black Fairies deck.
Excuse me.
And I just soundly won because I had triple Thundercloud Shaman, the giant that deals damage to all of your opponent's creatures equal to the number of giants you have.
Sure.
And he's playing fairies, so they were just all Plaguewind. And so I think one got countered, and I was like, well, that's dumb. And then just played another one, the next turn, wiped his board, and he rebuilt, and then I played a third one, and he's like, this is stupid, and scooped up his cards. It was so good. And I think he accused me of just beginner, basically just new player luck.
Yeah.
But I mean, he was right. Who drafts 3 of that card and then draws all of them?
Right. And then fairies went on to be this powerful, this powerhouse in multiple formats, and giants. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, as it turns out, I never actually played fairies. I played all the decks around fairies, but I could, even though I somehow found money from my job at the time to buy all these other decks, I never could stomach the idea of buying Bitter Blossom. So that card was $20.
Yeah,
I'm never gonna spend that much money.
Yeah. Now it's if only Bitter Blossom was $20, right?
Right, exactly. As I'm getting ready for Modern and looking at these things, and maybe I don't play that deck at all just because I don't know where I'm going to get those cards, and I'm not.
That's a car. Yeah. Oh.
Exactly.
Jeez. What was it kind of early on in your playing where you're just I'm actually not only pretty good at this game, but I'm actually pretty amazing at this game. Did you figure that out early? And when was that kind of epiphany aha moment to where you're I could actually do this maybe for some change eventually?
Maybe after I won the RPTQ. I played for a long time before I believed that I could actually do well. I still don't even. I think that I'm lucky. I think that I do my best. I'm not going to say I'm good, and I probably will never say that because that's just not the type of mindset that I have in general. And also, I know people who are very good at this game,
sure.
And I don't operate on the same level as Autumn or Jerry or Huey or whoever, and they'll explain something they're doing to me, and I'm just I just liked attacking there. That got them dead. So I did believe that I do believe I have strengths in the game. I actually think I'm pretty good at metagaming, just in general, especially in Standard, where I can kind of see how pieces move a lot more easily than Modern. Just part of probably why I like Standard generally more than Modern. But I've known that for a long time because there was a period where over a summer, I think it was just before college, or maybe it was the first summer of college, one of those two, was when Cruel Control had taken over Standard because they had printed the Fairies hate card, Great Sable Stag or something like that. 3/3 pro black, pro blue, can't be countered. Stupid card just to be fairies. And so that deck did really well. And then I was playing a lot of Moto, and I was like, honestly, I think that the way this metagame is going to develop is like kind of a blue-white protect the queen strategy into into a Merfolk deck designed to beat that, because that had already been used a bit in other formats to counter Baneslayer strategies, and just not in standard yet or something like that, into lots of people playing this Revel Arc deck. And I'm just going to be one step ahead and just be always playing this Revel Arc deck. And it actually came true from what I was looking at, if I remember right. And I've generally been pretty good at predicting those kinds of shifts once a format is solved. I'm not generally good early on because I don't know what's good. I don't feel like I've ever been a particularly good brewer or deck builder, but I've certainly gotten better just after a decade of playing. So. Sure.
Do you enjoy the brewing process, or do you enjoy kind of the playing with the finished product more?
I like both, and for different reasons. I enjoy just exploring like this kind of synergies that could be. Like, there was an aha moment where I was literally just in the shower and like I realized like, wait, what if we put these cards together and I sent that list. That was the one, like I, finished up, obviously, wrote down this list, got to work, and then sent this list to Huey, like, play this on stream tomorrow. And that was the original Mardivas deck, right?
That's like, awesome.
That was fun. I love those sorts of moments where I like the building things as an exercise, like building the green-black deck that's actually just all 2-for-1s, and like, when would this be good? I think that's all very fascinating. I don't know that I'm necessarily amazing at that, because I'm not going to be the one to refine all of these ideas super well. But then I also really enjoy later on trying to read where a metagame is going, predicting what's going to do well, and trying to maneuver in a way that I'm in the right spot for like the matchups I'm expecting to face. And there's a reward to that, and it typically tends to be that you win more if you kind of nail the right metagame. And I think that's a lot of fun too, because winning is just kind of innately fun. Like, like some people care less and more about the actual winning, but nobody hates that they win.
Right.
So it's just good to do.
Sure. And I giggled when you said you came up with this in the shower, but that's where I get most of my epiphanies as well. I'm just like, hey, this could be a really cool video.
And then that realization was honestly just like Elenda the Dusk Rose. Like, it ties the room together. Done. We've got it. Like,
yeah, absolutely. And you're playing very modest, but you did just win two pretty big tournaments, and now you're soon off to London, old chap. So what were those experiences like? I think the first one was in Vegas, right?
Yeah, the first one was in Vegas. I got exceedingly lucky to be in the top 8 at all. I shouldn't have been, essentially. I was XN2, but I snuck in at 8th place. So, that happens to be how it goes sometimes. I got lucky to get past Rudy Brixa. I guess part of it's just that like I was the aggressive deck, and he stumbled on lands, and that tends to be what happens. And that's a reason to play aggro decks. But got lucky, had to win all 3 games essentially of my finals match, because I decided I really just didn't feel like winning one of those games in the middle, and that I would just punt completely and let myself be dead on the crackback. So even though if I just attack slightly differently, I can't lose. Oh well. So it was a weird tournament where I won kind of despite that, which I feel like actually kind of like ignited a little bit of like, I can do this, but I can definitely do it better than that. Like, this was not a clean victory. This was like, you got lucky and you made every mistake possible and you still won. So the next win better be a lot more clean than that. Because if you're that
would have been validating though, right? Because you're just like, I kind of punted and fumbled a little bit, but then I still took down this entire thing.
Well, and what it made me realize was that I am able to tune a deck for a certain week, which is kind of what I was talking about a minute ago, where adjusting to metagames is very useful. I built a deck that beat the decks that I expected to be there, which were green, black, and is the Phoenix deck, or it was more Drakes at that point, but whatever.
Sure.
And that's what I played against pretty much the entire tournament. So, I mean, it paid off, right? I certainly also learned it was humbling to see myself like making these mistakes that I were just seemed very, very low level. certainly not what I would expect from myself after playing for so long.
Sure.
And it really did make me want to play better. So it was kind of odd that, you know, everyone's praising me and I'm just sitting here like, I know I could do this a little bit differently, maybe win all my matches instead of just barely getting into top 8, like stuff like that. So
how much of that was nerves, do you think?
In the final, none.
None? Oh, okay. Yeah.
I don't get nervous in tournaments. I never have.
Oh, awesome.
I don't know why. I mean, other people do. I'm sure that there probably could be situations, like if you put me in like the finals of a pro tour or whatever, and then told me, oh, and by the way, you're on camera, like that might do it, because that's just a lot of like,
that's a lot. Yeah.
There are a lot of people watching.
Sure.
But even like when I knew that the match was being recorded in Seattle, I wasn't sitting there thinking like, God, if I mess up, like Twitch chat is just gonna wreck me or just tear me apart for this. I was I remember making at least one play where I just like kind of looked at something I'd done and was like,
nailed it.
There's going to be a comment on that. Like, but I don't think any of it was nerves. I think that I think it was just a long day of playing Magic, and
sure,
you know, you make mistakes. Everyone's going to do it sometimes, and then it just happened to not affect me more than my opponent, apparently. So
do you feel like you got a bit of redemption winning the one after Vegas? Were you more happy with your play?
So qualifying for the Pro Tour definitely felt good. It was another situation where I again got lucky. I think unlike in Vegas, I actually think I played very well. Mm-hmm. There was one match where I think that I could have tried to play differently, and I like took tons of notes because I knew I was gonna write something for a TCG player as soon as I started doing well. So I just started jotting down all the thoughts in my head. And there's one match where I thought that I could have played differently. I don't know that it would have been better, but it might have given me a chance to win. But there was a lot less of that, like, I'm making obvious mistakes. I'm probably not playing perfectly, but I feel like I'm playing well. I don't see things that I'm actively disagreeing with after the fact, like, wow, I shouldn't have done that.
Sure.
So that was definitely a redemption moment, was being able to one, finally hit the matchups at the end of the tournament after I thought I was out, and then two, just play play good Magic and get rewarded for it.
Yeah, it was a ton of fun. Like I have shifted my, I guess I used to watch like, you know, a lot of sports or whatever back in the day, but now it's like I have like a group of people I root for. And after you kind of took down Vegas, I was like, oh man, that was so awesome. And then you took down the next one, and I was like celebrating like my team won. And I was just like, oh, like this is a person that I kind of know through like social media, but I was just like, you know, I have certain people I root for, like Brad Nelson's and all that, and it was at BBD's, and it was just such a cool thing to see you qualify for that. So, yeah, and that's a huge deal. Like that is the validation that so many Magic players strive for. It's kind of the equivalent, I guess, to like a content creator, like receiving like a preview card or whatnot. But like getting into the dance, like what does that mean to you, and what are you looking forward to most going to London?
Oh man. So I'm most excited to just go to London first.
Sure. First time?
Yes. I've never actually been outside of the US. I've just never I technically went on a cruise. That doesn't count. We're not gonna count that. So I had to get like I had to get my passport, which was a whole ordeal for a minute there. I was really worried I wouldn't get it in time, but so I paid for it to be expedited and all these things, then showed up like 2 weeks later and was like, fine, okay. So excited for London. I've never been outside of the country. I really wanted to go. I have a good friend named Alex, Jetpack Blues on Twitter, who I joked that when because I hated PPTQs. I hated that system. Just a ton. And so when they announced London, we were talking about it, and I was like, I really want to go to London. Like, it'd be awesome to meet you, to just visit a city I've always wanted to go to. I'm super excited to. I joked with him, like, I'm going to play PPTQs again so that I can meet you and visit your city. And then it happened. So like that was actually kind of awesome. I'm excited for the dinner, assuming they still do it. They change everything at every Pro Tour now, or Mythic Championship now. The dinner where it's just like seeing everybody kind of in a non-competitive setting. Like, I just want to get, I want to do a big brunch together, basically. Like, I wish that was more what it was, but a dinner works too. Just to be like, just socialize with all the, other Pro Tour Mythic Championship competitors.
Yeah, I'm still going to call it Pro Tour too. Don't worry.
I'm trying not to, though. I should at least like buy into their branding. They're spending all this money on branding. I might as well brand along with it.
Sure, yeah, that's fair.
don't fight the current on this, right?
Right.
And I'm excited to draft the new set. I'm excited to sit down for, an actual official Pro Tour match, which I've never done. Because the level of competition and just who you face, your pod can just be like, oh, look, it's 2 Hall of Famers and 2 Plat Pros and
sure.
Old Pro, and like, oh gosh, there's one guy I don't know, but he's a streamer and like cool, So I'm excited for that, and just to see everybody. I have a lot of friends. Like Jess Estefan's going to be there, seeing Autumn, seeing Kiwi, Jerry, whoever. So it's great.
Absolutely, and it sounds like you're definitely taking it seriously. You are preparing for it quite a bit. What are your expectations for your results? Are you shooting for the moon? I mean, you have to, right?
I have no expectations. I mean, obviously, if it's what I want to win the whole thing, or at least top 8. I'll take top 8 too. Like, don't get me wrong. I do not expect that. Yeah. I expect to 0-3 my draft and then like 2-3 or 3-2 the construction portion.
Nice.
I have not played a ton of Limited for a long time.
Okay.
Now I have played. That's the format I've played most consistently across the whole time I've played those. So like, I'm hoping that there's kind of the residual skill there, and the things I'm doing to prepare help me. But at the end of the day, it's hard to prepare for this draft format because nobody has access to the cards until midnight, the night of the tournament.
Right.
Like, nothing I cannot draft an actual set of,
right.
Or an actual draft of this until the Pro Tour. We can do like proxy things, or we can do like an arena draft, but arena drafts can be kind of problematic.
Sure, yeah.
So it's going to be odd. It's definitely not what the Mythic Championship is normally, as I've been told multiple times by people. But it feels like it's going to be trickier to do well at the draft portion, and that's what matters, in 2019, much more than the constructed format where they tend to be solved. Matters much more to do well in draft, and I don't know how I'm going to prepare well enough for that to stack up against, Ben S and Martin Juza and whoever, so.
Sure. And for people that don't know, it's not Triple War. It's going to be War, Legions, and Guilds, correct?
No, I believe it's Triple War.
Is it Triple War? Oof. Yeah, so I was going to say, like, usually when it's like Ravnica or like Tarkir, you kind of, I don't want to say it's on rails, but you get an idea where you want to go. But yeah, with War, with everything that we've been seeing, it's this like, here's a fantastic Orzhov card, here's a fantastic Boros card, and then like everything in between. This set is so amazing and like all over the place. It's 100% the most ambitious set I think that Wizards has ever come out with. Every day when something comes out, these preview cards from these content creators or Wizards themselves, and my jaw is still dropping every time I open my phone, is saying something. So that, yeah, I mean, I'm excited for you, but I don't envy trying to figure out this crazy set in a draft, in a limited environment the night of. So good luck to you, my friend.
I mean, I'm talking with people, and we're going to try and do some proxy drafts and stuff like that to get a little bit of information, but yeah, it's going to be tough. It's especially because so many of the sort of like enchantment walkers are really hard to evaluate. Like,
yeah, they
how
are.
good is Saheeli, right, in this format? There's value, it's like a build around enchantment, and also there's this weird ability where like an artifact can copy an artifact, and that's one that came out today. I'm looking at this, and I'm like, I mean, I guess if it's like kind of a blue red spells deck, I can probably play this, but otherwise, like, are there even enough artifacts that are in this set for me to have one? And what am I copying? And like,
yeah,
I guess exactly. I think it can copy a creature too, so maybe that's good enough. And like, it just doesn't make, like, I don't know how this is going to play, and I won't until the full set is spoiled. And I've played a couple drafts with it specifically.
Sure.
And that's pretty much all of them, outside of like some of the obvious ones, like the Kaya is good. No one's gonna, I kind of expect Kaya is going to be a high pick, for example, because her text is -3 exile creature. Like, you would play that card for 6 mana if that was all it said, and it says more. So
right, yeah. And you're so right. It's so hard to evaluate, and everyone's going to have so much access to it to where you're going to want to go. I think there's like definitely a Planeswalker draft deck with all the proliferate and all that. I think there is, I think and we haven't seen a lot of artifacts, but I think there is going to be an artifacts matter just with Saheeli and Karn and some other keywords I think they're hinting at. And then, of course, you could just go straight aggro and go Amass, which I was so heartbroken because Amass just read a little non-intuitively, if I'm just going to be honest, at first. And I thought that it was like, I'm like, oh shit, everything's a bitter blossom. And then until it's not.
It's, Amass is definitely going to be weird because I don't know, like all the Planeswalkers make tokens, it feels like. So I don't know how big does this token have to get? Like, is a 2, like Amass 2, what does that mean in this format? Because like, there aren't that many creatures and I don't know. It's odd. Like then there's a bunch of weird stuff I've already noticed, like the white tapper that they revealed today.
Yeah.
Taps target creature with converted mana cost 2 or more. And I'm like, well, that's everything except for the tapper. Oh, and it also doesn't tap the army tokens or the Planeswalker tokens. It's like, how good is this card?
But it's got the right numbers, right? For limited, it's 1 for a 1/2, so it's got like a decent sized butt on it. It's just like, is this good? It's hard to evaluate.
It could also be bad.
Yeah.
Like, because it really depends, like how many tokens are running around, because it can't tap tokens. Like, so, and it kind of feels like there's a lot of tokens based on what we're seeing. So I have no idea. It's gonna be challenging. Hopefully I can figure it out well enough that I don't embarrass myself in my first draft. Because it seems the other problem I have is that when I don't know what to do in a draft format, I tend to just go like, I'm going to focus on curving out, just like in standard, where I go 2-drop, 3-drop, 4-drop, maybe a 5-drop, and just hope that's good enough. And that seems a lot trickier in a Planeswalker format, where it's like, yeah, you played a 3-drop, but all it says is give your creatures lifelink or vigilance or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, this doesn't really add to the board in the same way.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's why they kind of added those static abilities too, because some of those abilities, if you read some of those Planeswalkers, it's like there will be instances where I don't want to take up or down my Planeswalker, and that's just a weird feeling. But it does kind of have that duality of being in a static enchantment type thing as well. And since we're talking about MTGWAR, since Ravnica Allegiance, one of my personal favorite archetypes in standard, I was there watching the Gate Crash. I think I was pretty sure it was Gate Crash when we first saw Aristocrats, that pro tour between Joel Larson and no, I'm sorry, it was Tom Martell. But anyways, it was the first time we saw Aristocrats, right? And since it's come back, since Ravnica's been back, we have been getting amazing Aristocrat cards, and there's even another 2-drop that's going to be added to the mix. And I think you've kind of made the name better in Mar Divas, so I'm totally going to ship that name, even though it's one of my favorite formats as well. So does with all these new additions, and we haven't even seen everything yet, but we've seen some really good stuff out of War for that archetype. Does this get pushed to the top tier 1 tables, do you think?
So, I mean, answering that without seeing everything, I mean, they could print a card tomorrow that makes it either amazing or just terrible, and I won't know that, obviously, right now. My first thought is that they're giving it a lot of the cards that it wanted. Cruel Celebrant is great. Just having copies 5 to 8 of the On Death Deal 1 trigger. It's not as flexible as Judith's, but also life gain is a huge thing that deck was missing, so that's very relevant. It gave another aggressive 2-drop. The deck was kind of like wanting to play something like Rakdos Fireblade before, but that was kind of a bad card. It just didn't do enough on its own. And so they printed Dreadhorde Butcher, the 1/1 haste that has the Slith ability of like whenever it deals combat damage to a creature, in this case, I think, or not creature, to a player, and I think it says Planeswalker too. You add a +1/+1 counter to it. that card is huge because it also has a death trigger. So there's lots more of these death triggers that it was missing a little bit of that. So I don't know that it was missing both, but like we'll take it. The biggest problem still is not having kind of an unconditional sacrifice outlet.
Right. Like a Cartel Aristocrat, right?
Right, like Cartel Aristocrat, because Pitiless Pontiff is fine, but it does have an activation cost.
Yeah, that's bad.
Priest of Forgotten Gods is fine, but it has to be in play for one turn. It's actually very powerful, but it has to sit in play for one turn.
Sure.
A Nantuko Husk would be huge. I just doubt that they're going to give us that. Like if you had told me that the Obnixilis was less mana, I might have considered it because destroying your own creature is fine, especially when you get to draw cards with it. Mm-hmm. So that could have been useful, but that's not what they gave us.
Yeah, he cost 6 or something, right? Something
like
asked. Yeah, it's still. Yeah.
Who cares? It doesn't matter. He's not.
He's bad.
But the biggest problem. That's one of the biggest problems. The other one is that Cry of the Carnarium is still a card. And as long as Esper wants to play that main deck, it's really hard to justify playing a deck that needs its creatures to die. Because even if they give us the sacrifice outlet, like you can get around it a little bit because you can still get the death triggers before the exile effect happens, which would be good, but you don't solve the problem of Cry itself, right? So like Sorin, the Bloodlord or whatever his name is very good in the deck, but if everything and like if they're 1-for-1ing your creatures with cast downs and Moments of Craving and Mortify, then that's great. Sorin is kind of like an Ajani that's easier to cast in this deck. If they are focusing on exiling all your creatures with Cry, this card doesn't really do anything.
Right.
And that's not a problem that anything that we've seen so far solves. Now, maybe they're going to print a different version of Cry that doesn't exile creatures, and so there will be times where it's good. Maybe they'll print some sort of a card that gets around this. Maybe they'll print an Anthem that's great, that for some reason you don't want to just play in mono white. I don't know. But right now, I'm excited to play Mardivas. I don't know that it'll be top tier as long as a control deck running Cry of the Carnarium is so prevalent. And I don't think that adding a ton of Planeswalkers that don't have kind of like a threat to control decks is going to help shift away from Teferi and Kaya's Wrath. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's shift our focus a little bit into just social media in general in the Magic community. You're very active on social media, namely on Twitter. It's its own beast. It's its own monster, right? Like when I mastered or felt like I mastered Twitter, no one ever truly puts baby in the basement, right? Then I jumped into Reddit, and that's
are you putting babies in the basement?
Well, when you have 4 of them like me, you got to put them somewhere.
4 kids, okay.
So what tip would you give new creators and community members on how to conduct themselves for more positive social experiences with Twitter?
So I firmly believe that to get positivity, you have to be positive. So put that out into the world and people will reflect that, right? If you're somebody who generates a lot of negativity, that's what you're going to be known for. That's the energy you're going to kind of get in return, whether it's negative towards you or kind of with you, still doesn't change the fact that it's negative, right?
Right.
Be positive, be friends with everyone. Maybe not everybody, but be friends with all the cool people and, who are on Twitter and aren't out there being negative all the time. And I think that that's a good place to start. And just interact with people in general. Like, we're all just here to talk about and play Magic, right? So like, if that's what you're making your Twitter conversations about, is like all the fun ways to play Magic and the cool things you can do, your commander and the standard decks and the brews and the previews and the new cards, those are all great topics, right? Like you're going to find people to interact with and just have a positive experience with. And that's really all I've ever done with Twitter, is just use it as a way to just message with people about Magic at work and stuff. Because I have plenty of time where I can just sit on my phone. even if I shouldn't be.
Right, yeah, they're not watching, don't worry.
Oh, they're definitely not watching. That's
speaking of, are you happy with the route that WotC has been taking to make a more inclusive approach for character designs and everything about the game? And what else would you like to see from the company to continue to make Magic a more welcoming and inclusive game and community?
Okay, so I'll start with the praise. Yes, like I haven't been playing as long as everybody, but I was playing 10 years ago when it was a typical fantasy game marketed towards say 16 to 25-year-old white males, and you could see that in the arts. Shout out to one of the earlier cards that from when I was playing, Wild Nicodle, which for some reason has tiny cleavage, like as a cat.
Yeah.
Don't know why any of that's true. Things like that were always a little bit off-putting. I remember the conversations even back then about like, so why does Kemba have boobs? This is kind of weird.
Chainmailed bikinis for all the angels. Yeah,
exactly. And it's just like, so, and even, so that's kind of where we started. And since then we've had amazing characters across a variety of gender, race, sexuality, age, etc. spectrums, right? Like, people of all types are represented in Magic, which was just not true for the first probably 15 or so years of the game. And they have done a lot to really incorporate people's experiences in as well. I mean, probably, I think one of the most well-known examples of that is Alesha. Yeah, Alesha, right? The
Mardu, yeah.
Yeah, the Mardu, yeah, the Fate Reforged Mardu leader. Yep. Like a character like that resonates with so many people, right? Absolutely. And you have other characters like Yahenni and a variety of the Planeswalkers and whatnot. They've done a very good job at a lot of different aspects of making sure that the game reflects who's actually playing it. If there's one thing that I would like to see, it's a gay planeswalker or main character who isn't immediately dead or irrelevant, or isn't bringing back a character who is long since dead, like Canary Hero, where it's like, that's great. I love those characters. They were on the packaging in the Walmarts and the Targets and whatever, but it's like Kaneos and Tiro, their story's already been told. We actually saw the story before their card, Guardians of Miletus and stuff like that. So I'm hoping that there is one of these 36 planeswalkers is gay or something. Apparently it's not Tiro, which is my guess. But something there is not really a gay male planeswalker or character, which is odd because they certainly have done many things, like taken many steps towards that. But they just kind of like skipped that one. And I would like to see that fixed. And also when they do it, I would like to make sure that this character stays alive, because the kill your gaze trope is not cool.
Right, yeah.
They can survive. They don't have to be a huge character, but like, let them live, please.
I think I was one of the only ones that was just like a little bit off-put by Ashiok, just because it's just like, yeah, you went through all these lengths to make a non-binary character, but you made it in such a, Ashiok is such like almost a grotesque, where it's just like, why not make one prominently a little bit more not appealing, but you know what I mean? It's just like they made Ashiok just such a, and I love how badass they are, but make one that's more in the forefront with the heroes, so to speak. You don't always have to make your villains your non-binaries and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a legitimate criticism, and you see that across media, is that the villain as the one that is the sexual or gender deviant, is very overplayed. I think that there are a lot of people who love Ashiok because Ashiok is mysterious and plays into kind of a style that a lot of people like. A lot of people, are blue and black aligned, so to speak, or if you ask them anyway, that's what they'll say. So I think that there are a lot of things that still work with Ashiok, but I'm glad that some of their other non-binary characters have moved away from the villain trope, right? Like Aleshra is one. The Aetherborn were another example where even though they were black aligned, they were, and sometimes blue black aligned, they were primarily, they might be kind of roguish, but they were not necessarily evil. They could be good or bad.
Right.
Enemy is
more morally ambiguous. Good, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. And so I think that they have done a good job moving away from that. But yeah, I mean, Ashiok is probably kind of evil, and
right.
It's okay to have a villain be evil. The question is when it becomes every character is evil, and your examples of diversity all tend to be villains for some reason.
Yeah.
It's really problematic, right?
It's like someone in the suit, in the boardroom. It's like, we checked the box. They're like, but did we?
We're going to defeat this character and make the very fitting the norms heroes be the villain or be the ones who win and get celebrated.
Yeah,
that seems a little yikes.
Even with Arlen Court, they got a lot of praise for putting kind of a more mature lady planeswalker in Shadows over Innistrad. But her card, although I love the art of the card in War, it looks like that planeswalking trip to Ravnica sure did take 30 years off. And I'm like, what is going on? I don't like when they kind of undo the good that they did.
Yeah,
that's nitpicky and whatever, but
I think it's a valid criticism, and I think that having a criticism doesn't mean that you're critiquing them as a company or the character or anything like that. Like, you can just say hey, just for future reference, maybe this should be different, right? And that's perfectly valid to express. So I agree that maybe your middle-aged planeswalker shouldn't look like they're straight out of the BRA commercial or whatever with the perfect glowing skin. Or maybe she really, she's had a good skin routine since then. Who knows?
The blind eternities are sure are good for the pores.
The blind eternities are really just blinding lights, and it's a big tanning bed. So you just come out and you're like, ooh.
Yeah. Just this is
great.
Fresh spray tan. Yeah. So
you don't planeswalk too much. You'll burn to a crisp, be like the leather face.
1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3
Have you had to deal with any negative interactions as an openly gay man in the community or at the tables at all? And how do you overcome them if you have? Not saying that you have.
Not really. There have been a couple. There was one really weird specific instance in Minneapolis, but it was at a store where I knew everybody, and he wasn't the owner, he was the manager. Stepped in right away to be like, don't do that. And it was shut down very quickly. So that's how you always want those sorts of things to be handled. It wasn't a big deal either. And then the only other one was just when I first moved to Long Beach, and it's why I never really went to the Long Beach stores when I lived there, was I was playing basically the same deck, and I just had them in these rainbow unicorn sleeves from Legion because that was what I had at the time or whatever. And I sat down to play my first or second match or something, and this guy looked at my sleeve and was like, "Oh, be careful, dude." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Oh, they're gonna think you're gay," and I'm like, buddy, I have news for you. Right.
Wow, what a foot in the mouth type of moment.
Right. And so the rest of the match was just super awkward.
Sure.
I was just I'm gonna leave now.
Oh no!
I heard this dude say it, and just nobody said anything, and I was like, I think it's good on this one. So maybe that was the start of why I play so much more Mitgo and online than I do in person, but whatever. Otherwise the Magic community has been nothing but accepting and fantastic. So, and even then, he was kind of a middle-aged dude in his comfort zone. He probably just said something stupid, so I don't want to give him too much crap about it. It was awkward, but the only time I ever even remember that happened is when somebody asks me so have you ever dealt with anything? And it's not really.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and it's, I mean, you do hear horror stories, especially, you know, if you're on Twitter and whatnot, everyone has them. But for the most part, I think, at least from what I've seen, even if when I've witnessed things happen at F&M tables or whatnot, you know, the community, whether it be a content creation community or just a playing community, usually kind of takes care of its own. And if it doesn't, you're kind of in the wrong spot anyways, and you don't want to associate yourself with assholes anyway. So,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean that like I said, there's a lot of instances of bad stuff happening, but for every bad instance, I think there's 400 more heartwarming and kind of lifting up experiences in the community.
I mean, and I don't, and one thing I do want to make sure to say here is, like, I'm sure that these things do happen, right? Like, it's really easy in, you know, I've lived in downtown Minneapolis and Los Angeles and go to, you know, and then when I travel, I'm dealing exclusively with people I know for the most part. And the people I meet are either people who want to talk to me, or I'm playing against in a tournament who I don't tend to get into like big conversations. And
sure.
Also, I'm usually wearing a shirt that says I'm gay in some capacity, and they'd be kind of foolish to say anything at that point. We're in a competitive tournament.
Which Wizards just made that tank top available again, right?
Yes, they did, and it's great, and you should go buy it from the fundraiser.
Awesome. I can't pull off a tank top, but
but I do, like, I'm sure that there are stores where this happens and where that people do experience these sorts of negative interactions associated with being gay, because these stories haven't gone away even as they've gone down, right? And it's not, I don't want to give the impression that because I haven't dealt with it that people don't deal with it. And, you know, because I'm sure that it also wouldn't take us very long to find some instances about that and whatnot. And so the Magic community is certainly great overall, but there are definitely areas that it can improve and continue improving. And I hope that it continues to do so.
Absolutely. Here's a little bit of a heady question. What are your short-term and long-term goals in this game?
I have no idea what my long-term goals are. My short-term goal is to not embarrass myself at Mythic Championship London. I want to continue this streak of showing that, you know, even win or lose, I can at least feel happy with how I'm playing. And, you know, if the cards don't go my way, that's not a reflection of me necessarily doing badly, but just that, you know, either I could have played a little bit better, but was generally happy with it, or that I played my best and, you know, it's modern and sometimes things don't go your way. I also know that I want to make sure to get to a few of the Grand Prix over the summer. I finally have 2 buys again. For a minute I didn't, and that was really annoying. So because I would like to requalify, right?
Absolutely.
Long term, I don't know. Presumably I should do something because I love this game and community and everything. I don't know that I have any sort of aspirations to create content necessarily. It's something I kind of want to do, but I don't know what I would do. So I'm not going to just start doing something because I feel like I should. And I guess the only other long-term goal would be to, in some capacity, stay on the Pro Tour, whatever that looks like, even though they really haven't told us much about that.
For sure, yeah.
You know, I guess right now that means get to the MPL. So I better win the Mythic Championship, and then I can join Autumn or whatever. But I don't really, other than that, I don't really have any sort of real concrete goals. Just do better, play better, hopefully requalify.
Perfect. We're at the time of the episode, or the portion of the episode where this is going to be the Patreon question. So this is one of the cool things. If you would like to support this channel directly, become a patron. You get to do awesome things like this, like ask amazing community members like Nick Prince questions. You don't get to do that every day. So this one comes from one of the content creators that is like on fire right now. He is near and dear to my heart, and that is Groucho Marco. He just makes fantastic video essays. Just did one for Gathering Magic via Vorthos Mike for the basic land from Titus Lutner. He is just, I love Groucho Marco so much, and I'm just so gosh darn like honored that he's a patron of the channel. So he asked, and I actually gave him 2 because one of them's kind of short and relevant, and the other one I think is also relevant. The first one being, does being such a prominent representative of the queer community in our game ever put any pressure on you? If so, how do you manage that pressure? And we kind of talked about this a little bit with the question before, but this is more of a pressure situation other than dealing with negativity.
Yeah. I think that the pressure it puts on me, I am never worried that I need to always be out there and loud and advocating necessarily, right? Like I don't feel those sorts of pressure. I think those things kind of a little bit come naturally to me in terms of just like obviously it's my own interests, right? There's definitely a self-interest here that is going to always make me kind of do that anyway. So I don't feel those sorts of pressures. I'm trying to feel out the question a little bit.
Sure.
In terms of, I do want to make sure that I'm always representing myself the best I can. I have tough losses and whatnot, and sometimes, I'm not always the most happy person or whatever after I lose, and I try to make sure that I'm not complaining too much, and at least if I am, that it's to people who will tell me to shut up or whatever. I walk up to Emma or whatever, and I'm like, yeah, drew 57 lands. She's like, it's like we move on with life, right? But I'm not like getting salty or whatever. Those are the sorts of things that like I feel pressure to just make sure that I do, just because I don't want people to associate me as, I don't want people to associate me as being like the mean gay, the fun gay, the sassy gay. Those are all great. I can throw shade. That's fun, but I don't want to be seen as mean, or anything like that. Those are the only sorts of pressures I really feel, and the only time that's tough is after a tough loss. But I think that it's certainly I used to be very salty, so I will say that. This was years ago, so I don't think that I experienced the same kind of bad loser anymore. I might be very hard on myself, but I don't express this towards other people or anything like that. Those are the only pressures I feel. I don't feel nervous about representing who I am essentially with other people. People come up and they're like, "Thank you for what you do," and I'm like, "Great, I'm glad that I do something in your eyes." Like I'm just out here being me. So
that's awesome. Yeah, and his second parter was, how are you preparing to play with the London Mulligan rules?
Right now, I really haven't. I've talked about it a lot, kind of just in the theory crafting stage and whatnot. The reality is it comes to Magic. Once they announced that it was coming to Magic Online, it changed how I was planning on testing completely. Mm-hmm. Before that, it was like, messaging my local friends like, "Hi, this is your deck, and I need to play against this. And we're going to play with this stupid mulligan rule so I can figure it out, because apparently the only way I can test this is in paper." And they were like, "Oh, like cool, whatever." And then they announced that it was coming to Magic Online on April 10th, which is the day after we're recording this. And I can just play online now. And no matter, my friends are great and they can talk with me. They're, some of them are going to come over and just like basically go through leagues and stuff with me and whatever. But at the end of the day, I'm going to get so many more games and useful information out of just testing online, as opposed to trying to like sit down and shuffle up different decks and whatever. So sorry for the non-answer.
No. Yeah. So thank you again, Groucho Marco, for the questions, and thank you for becoming a patron. If you want to support the show directly or anything else we got going on this channel, become a patron, and you get your name in the lights and get to ask awesome guests, awesome questions like that one. So Nick, we've arrived to kind of the end of the episode, but before I let you go back into the blind eternities to get that nice tan, we are going to be playing Face the D20. And for the uninitiated, Face the D20, Nick is going to be rolling a spin down, and each number on the spin down correlates to a non-magic related question. So we get to know a little bit more about the man behind the cards. So, sir, do you have your spin down ready?
I do. Shout out to Michelle Rapp for giving this to me. She gave me this as a little gift after it's a rainbow. So I don't know if you can see it.
Oh, yeah. That is excellent.
It's great. She gave me it as a little gift. So
I love Michelle. She's one of my favorite planeswalkers.
Wait a minute. Does it have to be specifically a spin down dice, or can it be like just a 20-sided die?
It can be 20-sided, yeah.
Okay, I was like, this. I just realized this isn't a spin down. It's just a regular D20.
I know for the purists, there is definitely a difference, but I think that will suffice. And the fact that it's coming from Michelle, it makes it even...
Okay, it's blessed. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Okay, we're good.
Exactly. All right, whenever you're ready.
All right, let's roll it right here. 15.
Number 15, we have, what food would you not eat even if someone paid you $500?
Oh man, there's a lot of foods I wouldn't eat.
We talked a little bit about this off camera.
Yeah. There are most seafoods I will not eat. Octopus specifically seems especially gross to me. Anything that's got like that kind of like bumpy texture to it, I just am not all about. And I really don't like seafoods for the most part.
Sure. All right. Yeah. I do you like tomatoes and mushrooms?
I love the taste of mushrooms, but I hate the texture of mushrooms. I don't like them because they're squeaky, and I hate that. But like,
so with you.
But like cream of mushroom soup and like anything with kind of like a mushroom flavor in it.
Yeah,
great. Like that's fantastic to me. Tomato. You don't like the flavor of tomatoes?
No. I just don't like the texture. I don't like the. Okay. Like I couldn't put a tomato on my burger, but I love like spaghetti and all the sauce and stuff from tomatoes. I think I'm like you were a total texture person.
That's fair. Justin's my boyfriend. Justin is the same way. Where he specifically, we just did this at In-N-Out yesterday, will have them put tomato on his burger so it gets a little bit of the flavor, and the first thing he does is take the bun off and take the tomato off. So it gets some of the flavor, but he doesn't have to eat the actual tomato.
Sure. Hey, that's actually a really smart idea. And now I'm really sad because now I really miss In-N-Out burger. All right, take another roll. There's no In-N-Outs in the Pacific Northwest. It's so sad.
Oh, I was asking why do you miss In-N-Out?
Because it's good. You don't like it?
It's fine. So brief In-N-Out tangent.
Yeah.
It's not that it's bad. I don't like their fries. I think their fries are kind of mediocre.
But animal style fries? Come on.
Okay, but why wouldn't I? Literally everyone says that, and my response is, why wouldn't I just get carne asada fries? I'm in Southern California. And those are just superior.
That's totally fair.
And like their burgers are like good. But like, for like people hype it up as like this is going to be the great. Oh, you've got to have In-N-Out. You move to LA, you're visiting LA, you're visiting Southern California. You've got to try In-N-Out. It's so good. And it's like, don't talk it up. It's a fast food burger.
No,
like,
yeah.
And second, like, for some reason, everyone in this stupid city, I guess I can swear, everyone in this damn city goes to In-N-Out for every fucking meal for some reason. And so like and I live down the block from one, and it's like if I go in, there'll be 40 people in line for some reason. And like, but the drive-through will have 40 cars in it for some reason. So I don't get it. Because it's not that good.
It's like, an institution, Nick. Jeez.
It's fine. And I'm not trash talking it because I don't hate it or anything. I was there yesterday. I don't get how hyped it is.
Right.
There's your bonus tangent on In-N-Out. My next roll was a 19.
We could keep going back and forth on In-N-Out. No, what is your... this is all food. You're getting all the food-related questions, Nick. What is your culinary triforce? Perfect breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Well, for breakfast, I'm going to have a mimosa. Coincidentally, it's also the same answer as lunch because I had brunch. And then for dinner, it's going to be a screwdriver. So,
no food, all liquid. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah,
what up?
It's totally fine. All right, roll again, sir.
Oh yeah, just move away from that topic.
Yeah, that was an easy one. 5. What's a hidden talent that you have that not a lot of people know?
A hidden talent. Oh, okay. So I'm actually really bad at these sorts of things because I don't have many like weird or show-offy talents. I'm very good at. I feel like I'm very good at like coming up with alternate lyrics for songs and stuff. I can just do it very quickly. Where I'll hear something that somebody like a song lyric or whatever, and I'll just like redo it in my head. So like, there was a tweet I wrote like a few weeks back around when Autumn won the Mythic Championship, which was just like the last two lines of. Or the last two verses or whatever for "We Didn't Start the Fire," just ending it with "Terramander says trans rights," and I did that. That was great. Like, I think Melvin or someone was DMing me about something and mentioned that he was going to he was considering doing "We Start the Fire," and I'm like, oh, that's so good. Specifically because the first thing I thought of was like Jerry Thompson, LSV, Marshall Sutcliffe. Menguchi, and it was like that line just came to mind instantly, and I just wrote like a bunch of this and then posted the last 2 lyrics. So I've got like 16 or 18 lines written already for eventually parodying this song, because I just do it super quickly.
That is awesome. That's a true talent, and actually one that I have need for coming up for a project. So I will be hitting you up for that.
If you need help just like writing nonsense song lyrics and parodying it with something, I can try and help my best. I've done a lot of random crap for that.
That's excellent. Who knew that, you never know what kind of collaboration spawn out of these Hive Mind episodes.
What's so weird is that I really have like no other musical talents. I played I played the French horn through all of high school, but like I was never good at it or anything. Like, I can't sing. My voice is super monotone. I can kind of hear sound, but that's about it.
All right, sir. Do you have time for one more?
Absolutely.
All right, let's do it.
4.
Number 4, favorite place you've ever visited. I assume that this answer is going to change in a couple of weeks.
Favorite place I've ever visited. So there are some good answers that come to mind in Utah. I did a pretty cool trip through Utah, and then we went up to Yellowstone a little bit too. There were a lot of individual places in there. Like Zion National Park is just like gorgeous.
It's gorgeous to been, yeah.
There was I couldn't tell you the name of it, but it's like the highest point that you can drive to, I think, and maybe it's Wyoming or maybe it's in Yellowstone or whatever. It's this huge, like really long, windy road because that's how you have to get up this stupid mountain. But when you're at the top, it's just gorgeous, right? It looks fantastic. There's kind of a similar place in not that you drive up, but that you walk up in Culver City here, the Culver Stairs, and you just can, like, at night you look around and you just see the city in every direction because you're higher up than most everything else other than the mountains that are on the edges of the city. Mm-hmm. That's really cool. But I guess pretty much all of these examples involve me being really high up and seeing lots of cool stuff, which is apparently how I wanted, is how I find something cool, is when I can see a lot of it.
Sure. Awesome. Well, that is Face the D20. How do you feel? You survived.
I did it. There were some tough questions. I hope I got them all right. We'll find out when I get my score.
There we go. Well, it's public opinion, so we will leave it up to the viewers.
I'm screwed then. I trashed it out. I trashed seafood. I'm done.
And basically, you just like looking down on people. It was your last answer, right?
Out at all the cool things.
I know. I just. Any upcoming projects you could spoil or tease for the viewers?
Not right now. Nothing too interesting because I've really just been focused on the Mythic Championship. I hope to have projects afterwards because I have a little bit of a break after this where I'm not playing a ton of Magic, so maybe I can get involved in some cool things. So if anyone has some cool project ideas, hit me up.
Well, I will be hitting you up for that lyric challenge. I'm telling you, that's got to happen. Nick Prince, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for planeswalking in on the Hive Mind. Where can everyone find you, sir?
The number one place to find me is my Twitter. I am at Nick N Prince. The N is my middle initial, and so it's otherwise just my name. It's very easy to remember, I feel like.
Absolutely. And you could find me on this very channel, They Said We Said Doing This. Thank you for tuning in. You could also go on over to cardsphere.com because it is simply the best place to buy, sell, and trade your paper Magic the Gathering cards online. While you're out traversing, head on over to inkedgaming.com, enter promo code HiveMindMTG to receive 10% off cool playmats, dice bags, all that fun swag. If you want to listen to this strictly in podcast form, head on over to constructedcriticism.com. That's where the Hive Mind is exclusively playing just via audio format. And if you, again, want to directly support the channel, I do appreciate it. Go over to patreon.com and you get to do awesome stuff, which is all kind of spelled out for you on the website. So until next time, Planeswalkers, I'll see you all in the multiverse.
Bye.